This is the question of the day. When is an old junk watch worth keeping, or better yet, spending more money on it than it's worth? Well, welcome back to the Humble Horologist channel. I'm Anthony, the Humble Horologist. See how humble I am? Okay, enough of that. I'm going to talk to you today about a particular watch, but I also want to give you some advice for watches in general when it comes to watches that some people would just throw away. Now, the watch that I have on my wrist today is not a throwaway. It is a Vostok Komandersky in yellow. I love this watch because why? Well, because you can see it. Now, the watch that I'm going to be talking with you about today is a watch that I inherited from my grandfather. I did not know what it was when I first received it. I had to do some research because it wasn't something that I had seen before. Now, I don't know where my grandfather bought this watch or how he even got it, but because it was my grandfather's, I decided I needed to get it running again. And that's one of the things that I want to talk to you about today in general. There's four things that you can think about when it comes to when is it good to keep a watch that most people would just throw away, and when's it good to spend money on it that maybe is more than what it's worth. The first reason is when it's an heirloom. Like I said, this watch that I have is an heirloom. This is a watch that was passed down from my grandfather to me. This watch is a Lucerne, and it's a jump hour, and it came from about 1975. Now, we're going to talk about this watch in a little bit more detail in a minute. But here's the thing to remember. When you receive a watch from someone else, it might not be something that's worth a lot of money. You might get really lucky and have a rich uncle that passes down a Rolex Submariner. Most of us won't have that opportunity. Most of us don't have a rich uncle. But when it is an heirloom, it really doesn't matter how much monetary value that particular watch or any kind of heirloom may have. It's a thing of the heart. And when that is the key issue, really it doesn't matter how much money you spend on it if it's something that you truly love. I have another watch that I will show you at another time that I purchased, and it was the last watch that my mother saw when she was alive. So as you can imagine, that watch means something to me, and I'll never get rid of it. And I wanted it to be in perfect working order when I was able to do that. This watch is the same situation. This watch I put a lot of money into because it was something that no one really wanted to touch until I sent it to a friend of mine named James in California. Now, a second thing for you to think about when considering whether or not to keep an old junk watch that doesn't work anymore, especially, is if you have a personal history with this watch. You know, some watches might not be an heirloom. They might not have been passed down from previous generations. However, it could be a watch that you have a personal history with. Maybe this is a watch that you got when you first went to college. Maybe this is a watch that you got when you fell in love. Maybe this is a watch that you got when you made your first big sale. If you have a history with a watch, history means something. We don't want to forget everything, do we? So sometimes you have a watch that reminds you or takes you back to a particular time that gives you meaning and grounding in your life. So if it's something that you have a personal history with, go ahead, try to fix it up, spend some money on it, and keep it. A third reason is this: the watch could be rare or unique. You know, not all watches that are rare or particularly unique are worth a lot of money. As a matter of fact, there are some watches out there that are one of only very few that were ever made. But because they're not of a popular brand, they don't have the monetary value that some other limited edition watches may have. Maybe it's an old Timex. Maybe it is a brand that you never even heard of. Well, if it is rare or if it is unique, somebody ought to take care of those watches for future generations, don't you think? And when you have a collection of watches, how much more fun is it to pick one out even though you didn't pay $10,000 or $100,000 for it and say, hey, this watch is unique. And then number 4, you think it's cool.
Yo, Adrian, I want a Panerai.
Not every watch has to cost a lot of money. Not every watch has to be famous. Not every watch has to be rare or unique or have any kind of history. Maybe it is not even an expensive watch, but you think it's pretty darn cool. Well, hey, I think that's a good enough reason to spend some money on it, to keep it, because if it's going to stay in your collection because you like that watch, there's something about it that appeals to you, enjoy it. You're the watch lover. Now let me go into a little bit more detail about the watch that my grandfather left me. This watch was made in Switzerland, but it was made under the name Lucerne because the city of Lucerne, a watchmaking city, did not copyright the name, and there were no legal requirements that said you could not use the name. They come together, or they built watches under the name Lucerne. Different companies, different manufacturers, different watchmakers made the same kind of watch. They all had the same name on the dial, Lucerne. Oh, by the way, I have to tell you this right now before I tell you later. If you like this video, please hit the like button and please subscribe, and please, oh please, oh please share this with somebody so that this channel can grow. Now this Lucerne is a jump hour. A jump hour watch is one that the hour jumps. It doesn't just come around by hand, it jumps in the number, and it is a digital watch. Not the digital kind that we think about today when we think about a battery powered or solar powered watch. This was digital because it had numbers instead of hands telling the time. Now this watch came out in the 70s along with many others, like I said, not just Lucerne, but others that were jump hours to compete with the quartz watches, and the digital watches specifically really put a hurt on the mechanical watch manufacturers. So this was an immediate answer to the digital watch craze. And so we had a mechanical watch that was digital. Now, are these watches worth fixing? Well, believe it or not many people will touch one. I took this watch to a very well-known, very respected dealer in Augusta, Georgia, and they would not touch it. Yet, when I sent it to my friend James in California, he took it as a challenge and was able to do some work, service it, get it running again just perfectly fine, and restore the outside a little bit by cleaning it up and doing some buffing on it. This watch to me means a lot, and I will never sell it for any amount of money. But even if it wasn't my grandfather's, I think it's just a cool watch. I think it's pretty neat. There's not a lot of them out there that are working, and I'm glad to be able to have it and to wear it every now and then. Now, what about you? Do you have an heirloom watch? Do you have a watch that's a little bit different, that's rare, that is unique, or just fun that you have thought, hey, it's worth fixing up and keeping? Why don't you share it with us? Send us a picture of it, or send us a video, and or put it in the comments, so all of us could see it and enjoy it along with you. Tell the story behind it. I would love to hear it. And while you're at it, let me remind you to like this video, and if you would, subscribe. Well, thank you for watching. I hope that you come back and watch the next video next week. We're trying to do these on a weekly basis, and I never know what my setting in the background is going to be, but this one might be a regular one for a while. Who knows? It all depends on if the grandkids and the dogs want to come running through. But thanks to my son-in-law and my daughter who own this place, they're allowing me to do this, and not kick me out. So we'll see you next week. We'll talk about another watch. We'll have another story, and we will use our time wisely. That's why I say watches are replaceable, but time is not.